Hey, Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video page. We're in a new spot. Call this the Gorge. We're in the middle fork of the Flathead River. You're looking at Glacier National Park on that side, and in about an hour and a half, this place will be a zoo. And it's not quite sunrise yet. It's about 6 o'clock. I'm never up this time of morning. And it's a strange day that I am, but for the people that know me, I've always worked nights. Normally from 3 at night, 3 in the afternoon till 1 to 3 in the morning. And most of the shows I do are nighttime shows, like Coast to Coast AM, etc. Now look at that river for a second. That greenish color comes out of the mountains, and this intersects with two other forks of the Flathead, the North and the South Fork, about 7 miles from here. And then they form together and they flow through the Flathead Valley until they reach Flathead Lake. And that lake is huge, if you ever get a chance. For right now, though, Glacier Park is absolutely crazy, and it's the reason I got here so early today, because I don't want to deal with all the people, because this place will be nuts. So I have a good show for you today. Something really different, I think. And some people sent me some interesting snail mail letters that I'll read to you. A couple of things. I'm not going to be doing a lot of conferences this year. I kind of picked and choose which one I wanted to do. The first one I'm doing is July 23rd and 24th in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's a Bigfoot show, and it's huge. Now people say, well, why are you doing that? I go where I'm invited, and I go where I can talk. I'm not going to be talking about Bigfoot. I'm going to be talking about missing people. But if you Google Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Bigfoot, July 23rd, 24th, you'll see it's going to be huge. And July 30th and 31st, I'm going to be in Longview, Washington, at an event called Squatch Fest. Longview is just on the other side of the Oregon border. If you've never been there, it's a really gorgeous spot. Longview, Kelso sits right next to it. It's a really, really pretty location. Best way to get there is flying to Portland. You can also fly into Seattle and drive south. That's a pretty drive on I-5. And then the last one I'm scheduled for this year is the biggest one. It's huge. Phoenix, Arizona, the International UFO Congress, September 8th through the 12th. I don't know which day I'm talking yet. They haven't given me the day. I will be there all 4 days because they have events going each day for different things. So keep it in mind. So if you like UFOs, go to the Congress. You'll be stunned how big it is. If you like Bigfoot, meet you in Tennessee, or I'll meet you in Oregon. I picked 2 different areas. Couple of things. I've talked about this before, but it's come up more recently, and that's smearing. Smearing by politics, smearing, doesn't matter. There's an actual campaign back there in our world to control your thinking, and it's through social media, and it's through every possible way they can get to you. Newspapers, books. I first heard about this a couple years ago by Cheryl Atkinson. She wrote a book called Smear. And Smear is probably the most factually based book about working your mind to think a certain way that I've ever seen. I first heard about it when I was going to Berkeley, and through their Cal newspaper. And they talked about it, even way back then. But Cheryl explained that even some of the news organizations that you think are news today are really social media campaigns to change the way you think and to get you to think the way they want you to think. Whatever way that is. Now, why am I bringing it up? Because there's a smear campaign against me. Why? Well, I've been told many times it's because I'm against the National Park Service's refusal to be transparent on the missing person issue. And they have a lot of money, and they can funnel that into different directions. And there's a lot of park employees that are ignorant, that don't really understand what's happening inside their organization. Now, there's no other organization in government that has done a better campaign to boost their image and to make you believe they are a certain thing. Pure, innocent, they're the farthest thing from it. They have people in power there that have been there for 40 years, some of them, that think a certain way, want their organization to be a certain way, and they want you to be a certain way. They want you to be ignorant and stupid and not ask tough questions. It's just the way it is, folks. I'm sorry. But when they tell me that they can't give me a list of missing people in their national parks unless I fork over $1.4 million, that's a problem. Why is that a problem? Because every medium to large police department in the United States, that police chief can tell you who's missing in their jurisdiction within an hour when you go into their office. I can guarantee it. Why? Because it's a sensitive topic and it's important. But why isn't that important to the National Park Service or the United States Forest Service? They both have the same stature. They both have law enforcement agencies inside of their organization. Now, don't give me any of this garbage that, oh, they're so small and this and that. That's baloney. National Park Service has a huge police department with special agents that are detectives that are attached to their department. Their special agents are all over the United States. Pacific Division is in Yosemite National Park. I've been there, been in their office. Yeah, they're above this garage at Yosemite. As you walk up to the garage, you're looking at the falls. And then you walk upstairs and they're in this cramped office. I actually feel sorry for the investigators. They deserve better. Investigators are great guys. This isn't about them. They're doing really good work. They're hardworking people. It's the policies that come down from their superiors that are completely insane. Now, Yosemite is the only national park that has come out with a list of missing people. No other park has. No other jurisdiction ran by the National Park Service Police has either. And you ask yourself, why did Yosemite do that? It's because I already disclosed all the missing people that they disclosed. So there was nothing to hide. Now, the reality of it is, I obviously haven't gotten the names of everybody from all the other parks. So they're not going to disclose them. So, that's my rant about the National Park Service and the U.S. Forest Service. Both have law enforcement jurisdictions that are part of their organization. They control them. Why aren't they releasing the information? I really don't know. But if I can put the pieces together, so can they. All right, let's go to some letters that I got that are pretty interesting. Said Dave, I'd like to comment first on homeless veterans. If a vet is honorably discharged and is homeless or in danger of being homeless, he should contact his closest VA center and ask to speak to a caseworker. You should ask about the HUD VASH program and get a voucher for a housing program through HUD. This is available in larger towns, but may not be available in rural areas. Regarding the disappearances, I believe it is interdimensional and that it's generally accepted that they have an ongoing program for breeding hybrids. I love this when somebody writes, it's generally accepted. By who? So I suspect they want the young college guys, the best and the brightest for this program. Then it's easier to kill them because there's no regard for human life. Really? Same for the scientists and doctors who disappear. They want them for the program. Although all others would be wanted in order to study their disabilities and diseases. For the children, I suppose it is the DNA. Let me explain something about writing. When you write something, and you write it in a very strong manner, like you absolutely know it's the truth, you better be able to back it up. I learned this when I was in my master's program in college. Because if you can't back it up, the reader's going to tear you apart if they have any intellect. If you say something that, oh, this is generally accepted, where's the factual evidence? I don't mean somebody just making a claim. I don't mean some idiot on stage saying, oh, this is the way it is. No, factual evidence, it exists. That's why you're watching me, because I'm going to hold people's feet to the fire. So, I'm not mad at this person at all. I'm just saying that be careful the way you write something. Okay, the next part. Laura Eisenhower, great-granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower, is into UFOs and speaks at MUFON meetings. You may know her. No, I don't. She says President Eisenhower really did sign a treaty with the alien race of Greys in '54. I saw an interview with her in which she confirmed that this agreement allowed them to take people, presumably from national parks and forests, in return for them sharing their technology. That is horrible to think of, but look how far we've come technology since '54. So this is a possible explanation for the disappearances. Still, she said the treaty had to be re-signed every 10 years. Would all the presidents since Eisenhower have been willing to sign it? If true, they must have decided not to be confined to the parks and forests and moved on to take other people elsewhere. After all, who would know? No one did until David Paulides came along. I've heard of this. We've done a deep dive on this, and I cannot find any factual proof this exists. It's a really interesting story. If true, very concerning. But don't come at me with, oh, this person said that and this person said this, and try to convince me with those arguments. It's not going to work. I'm sorry. You got to have some other factual evidence before I'm going to take that dive. David, I'm so very sorry about Ben. You have received so many beautiful letters of condolence. I cannot write like that. All I can say is how sorry I am. I believe Ben is still very much your beautiful son who will love you and be your partner in all your projects until you meet him on the other side. I believe he hears you all the time for wherever you are. He is not dead. He is very much alive, just in a different dimension from which he has so much more available to him to use to work for good and to help in all what you do. He will want you to be as happy and at peace as you can possibly be, knowing he is with you every day, cheering you on and smoothing your path. I hope that's true. I talk to Ben every day. It's a one-way conversation, unfortunately. If you wish to communicate with Ben, there's a psychic medium named blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into that. Why are we here? Reincarnation is very real. Earth is a school, and each time we come is another grade in school and is planned carefully before we come to maximize opportunity for growth, learning lessons and loving others. The goal is to progress higher each time so that we can become more beautiful and perfect reflection of Christ in light. Eventually, we progress high enough so that we only return if we want to. Everything that happens in our lives has a reason, but many times we cannot see the reason. It's all through a glass darkly. That's what it says. But we will see and understand it all when we get home. Just know with 100% certainty that Ben has not left you. He loves you as much as always and is with you every day. In closing, thank you so much for all you do. I love the videos. They help me so much. What a wonderful gift to us. And yes, we are listening. We love and appreciate you so much. You're in our prayers. Thank you for that letter. Contrary to what a lot of people think, I read every letter. And I read every online post. It takes me an inordinate amount of time. It'll probably get to the place where I won't be able to do that. But as of right now, I do. And I try to be that accessible person to you that a lot of people are not. And I answer a lot of the posts on the video page, and I try to answer at least 90% of the emails I get. If there's not a direct question in the email, I probably won't answer it. But I try. Next letter. Mr. Paulides, I'm a semi-retired state of California wildlife biologist now living in Washington State. I worked for the state for 27 years and I've spent many years up and down California in the field performing surveys. I have been fortunate to have backpacked and hiked many trails in and around my hometown of Santa Barbara in the Los Padres National Forest in the 2000s without incident. I also did a student stint with the U.S. Forest Service performing oil and gas lease surveys and trail building, again without any incident. I feel that I should mention that I have a deep German ancestry dating back to southern Germany as possibly as long as 10,000 years, ethnic German. This makes me a tad nervous. I do not like hiking by myself. I really enjoy your videos and the depth which you go to investigate these disappearances. You're a great man doing great work. Keep it up. I'm sure it's tiring, but you are terrific. Thank you. I've watched your videos and website the past year and have found your content to be both interesting and disturbing. One particular story you related was about a young man who was going to meet up with friends at a campsite, but had left early to get there ahead of them by walking through a meadow and a shallow creek in order to scare them as a prank. As he was walking, he heard branches and twigs breaking either behind him or on the side of him as he was walking through the meadow. As he ran, so did the entity, as he could hear more twigs and branches breaking. At one point, he turns around and confronts the entity that is following or chasing him. As you can see the high grass parting as the entity approaches. He sees nothing that could be causing the high grass to part. At the same time as the entity is approaching, the sounds around him mute. He can see the meadow around him, but cannot hear birds or wind. He manages to confront the entity, and it leaves the area, as does the muting of the meadow around him. This jarred a memory that I had kept to myself, not wanting to share anything out of the ordinary for fear of losing a job or friends. Back in the late 70s, 78 to be exact, I was 17 years old and volunteered to help an older male friend build basements in and around Oroville, California. Think Yuba City and the strange happenings around there. The particular basement we were building was for a geodesic home, popular at the time. I'd gotten extremely tired from loading the cement mixer and loading bricks into a wheelbarrow to take up to the guys laying the bricks. I went back and sat in my buddy's 1977 Cherokee Chief to rest. Those are great vehicles. I mentioned that I come from a deeply religious family. My father was one of the Catholic mystic monks that was friends with Thomas Merton. I spent 12 years in Catholic schools. Anyway, I was a troubled teenager at the time and was regularly praying, asking Jesus to help me. As I was sitting in the Jeep, I heard to my right, as I was in the passenger seat, a crunching of twigs and branches. I pivoted my head to the right to see if it was one of the guys coming to get me. It wasn't. All I could see was what appeared to be something walking towards me. I couldn't see anything but what looked like footfalls in the duff and the crunching of leaves and a whirl of leaves around what must have been the lower invisible legs as it approached, leaving obvious depressions in the leaves as it walked. Whatever it was, it terrified me to the core. And I know it wasn't Jesus because of the feeling it gave me. All I remember is as it got close, I locked all the car doors, sunk down in my seat, covered my head with my jacket, parentheses, like it wouldn't see me with a jacket covering my head, ha, end of parentheses. That's all I remember. I don't remember being driven home or what happened after that. A very unsettling experience. So, I'll read the rest in a second. I want you to remember something. That you really didn't hear anything about these stories until I told you in my movie about what happened to this hunter. Now people start to feel comfortable and they start to come forward and explain what's happened to them. And I've probably heard of this now 30 times at least from very credible people. You're a biologist. So to think it's not happening is insane. Okay? On more with the same story. I have a theory about what we might be dealing with, so please consider this idea for what it's worth. I was pondering what kind of entity could snatch someone so quickly and quietly without anyone hearing, right under the noses of family or friends, without video cameras picking up the person, say leaving a bar or walking down a street with cameras. What if the entity is not actually fast but stealthy? Good points. And why are they good points? They're good points because so many times in the wilderness, I have spoke to family, friends that said, my child was right here, right next to me. I turned around and they were gone. Well, how could they leave an area so quickly without you hearing them, without you seeing them leave? Not logical. That means that there's some stealth mechanism at work. And I've thought about this a lot. I don't think our own government has the ability to be that good. We have stealth technology where they could put something in front of them like a carpet or a drape type mechanism that makes them blend into the environment. But to get that close and to make no sound, that's truly unique. And then to get somebody out of the area without others hearing them scream, don't think we have that ability. All right, on to the stories. First story I'm going to talk to you about, let me switch over, give you a different look here, involves a girl, young lady. And this fits the criteria of what I wrote about in my book, Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence. There's a couple other female stories in here, but 99% are about men who disappeared and were later found in water under circumstances that nobody could understand. Now, this next story is a fairly current story about a young girl, 23 years old, Raffaella Stroik, S-T-R-O-I-K, 23 years old. She went missing November 12, 2018 at Mark Twain State Park in Missouri. That's about 140 miles northwest of St. Louis. She was a graduate of South Bend High School in Indiana. She was a graduate of the University of Indiana, and she was a dancer, and a ballerina, and she danced for the South Hole Dance Theater in South Bend, for the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University, and for the St. Louis Ballet. I happen to know something about the ballet. Probably more than most guys. No, I never danced for the ballet, but I had several female friends that did at one time in my life, a long time ago. In fact, I knew the head ballerina for the San Jose Ballet. And let me tell you something about a ballerina, or men that dance in the ballet. They are some of the finest athletes in the world. And I'm not just saying this for fodder. No, they are phenomenal athletes. Their bodies go through more abuse day after day with so little time to recover. It's unbelievable. And it's a mixture of art and athletic ability that, if you understand how much they've committed to their profession, it's phenomenal. So, I have great respect for these people. Anyhow, Raffaella grew up in a family that was extremely religious. I'm talking seriously religious. Her dad was a professor at Notre Dame, specialized in Roman Catholic architecture, Duncan Stroik. Pretty famous guy. Quite the intellect. And Raffaella had 3 sisters. Now, all through life, she had told her parents that she wanted to dedicate her life to the Lord. She went to church, even while she was at the ballet, she went to church every day. She was highly committed. So, she was last seen on November 12th, 2018. The day before, she told her mom that she was going to take a week off from the ballet and kind of review her life and take a religious retreat. And she spoke to her priest about becoming a nun. Let me stop there. This is Raffaella. Beautiful girl. Beautiful. And a phenomenal athlete and scholar. And wanted to commit herself to religion. So she's last seen at 10:30 a.m. on the 12th at a Whole Foods. And they capture her on video. And she told her parents the day before that she was going to go to Mark Twain State Park, a place she had been before, and meditate and look for the answers after she talked to this priest about becoming a nun. She was not depressed. She was not suicidal. She was just committed. Well, she didn't come home that night. And the next day, a ranger sees her car still at the park, raises the alarm, contacts her parents, contacts the ballet. Search and rescue starts on the 13th. And a massive search. That day, they put sonar in the water of the lake. And they start searching. Ground search. Canines don't pick up any scent. Excessive. On November 14th, a private pilot volunteers their time to fly the lake, and it's a big lake, Mark Twain State Park Lake. And they find her body by the pier at the lake. And they pull it out, and it goes to the coroner. The coroner says that the circumstances surrounding her death are unknown. But they ruled the death accidental drowning. This is exactly what I have written about dozens and dozens of times in Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence. Now, why is it fit for Raffaella? Because it fits with all of the stories I've written. Athlete, intellect, unknown circumstances, drowning. Now, there's one post on the internet that says that she drowned. I'm pretty upset about that personally, because there's no there's a post on the internet that says that she took her own life. I'm upset about that. I think it's crap. I don't like people putting things on the internet that are going to harm a family and misstate the facts surrounding this case. There was none that showed this was suicide. The coroner didn't come down with a verdict that says it was suicide. So I don't like that. I stick with the facts. So, unknown circumstances how she got in the water. No, she wasn't beaten. She wasn't. No evidence of a fight or homicide, but that she drowned. It is weird, but it fits with all the weird cases I've written about that are like this. So that's the first case. Raffaella Stroik came from a great family. She has 3 sisters. They're in my prayers. And I saw an interview with her parents. Tore at my heart. I know I know the effort it takes to become a world-class athlete like Raffaella was. To get to that point in life where you mix the art and the athleticism to do what she did on stage is so elite that it's hard to explain. I know how proud her parents were of her. Kills me when these things happen. So, going to move across the ocean now. We're going to talk about 3 cases that are in a cluster that fit the profile of what I'm talking about in my book, Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence. And the first case I'm going to talk to you about is one involving a young man named Sope, S-O-P-E, Peters, P-E-T-E-R-S. All of these cases happened in Durham, the UK. Now, off to the east of Durham is the North Sea, and that's only about 5 or 6 miles from the city. Remember I said these happen near water, okay? Now, there's a river that runs through Durham called the River Ware. That's Sope. Smart, smart, smart young man. So his true name was Sope Folua, but they called him Sope Peters. He was a black American from Virginia attending Durham University. Well, why is that? Well, Durham is listed as one of the top 100 universities in the world, where all super smart people go. He was a second-year economics major, and he lived in a flat in the Highgate area, and he stayed there until 11:30 p.m. on October 29th, 2013. And at about 11:30, he came out of his flat and went down to a location to hang out with some friends. He went to a place called the Klute, K-L-U-T-E nightclub, and after about 30 minutes there was ejected because of being too intoxicated. Suspicious to me, because I don't think I could get drunk enough that you could throw me out of somewhere in 30 minutes. Now, Sope was 20 years old. It was legal to drink. CCTV, closed circuit TV, shows him outside and unsteady on his feet. So what may have happened inside to make him appear so intoxicated? I don't know. But he didn't show up to school that first school day after this, and they reported him missing. Well, there was a giant search, water, air, sonar in the water of the River Ware, and they found nothing. And the community was very nervous. So about 5 weeks after he disappears, the community, things everywhere, people are nervous, etc., etc. Well, along the river near the Durham Cathedral, near the church, somebody walking along finds a body. And they believe that they believed he stumbled and he somehow got into the river. Well, they found his body near the cathedral, and his blood alcohol level, the only thing they would say, it was over the legal limit. They said his body had no signs of violence, there was no GHB testing, and they ruled it as the cause as drowning. They didn't know how he got into the water. They didn't know the cause. They didn't know anything. That was suspicious case number 1. Now what you're hearing right now is the train is very close right here. And as I've told you before, every place at Glacier National Park, the train is usually pretty close if you're on that perimeter. So it's going to go by for a minute, but calm down. So that was Sope Peters. Next case happened May 11th, 2014. And that was about 6 months after Sope's disappearance. And this was a a guy named Luke Pearce. Luke was a first-year engineering student, 19 years old. He was drinking with friends at a club called Jimmy Allen's. He was a stud. He was a rugby player. He was very athletic. He was very smart to get into that school. He was last observed walking along the River Wear towards the Maiden Castle from Durham. University staff reported him missing on May 12, 2014. In none of these cases did anybody ever see any of these people go in the water. Ever. Which you hear, like I told you, I tried to get here early before people got here because all of a sudden they'll start yelling and screaming and it'll be a zoo. So, the Durham police brought in divers, they brought in search and rescue, they brought in sonar, and they searched. They searched for days. They didn't find him. Now in the Sope Peters case, somebody just walked along and found him. In this case, it was the Durham rowing team that was out practicing in the River Wear, and they came across a body. And it was Luke. So they call the police, and they recover the body. The inquest said that he died of accidental drowning. No injuries, unknown circumstances how he got into the water. Kind of see the cycle going on here? This is in the middle of a big city. Nobody ever sees the people going in the water, but the people always drown. Weird. It's case number 2 in Durham. Now, about 8 months after Luke disappears, there's another man named Euan Couthard, 19 years old. And he went missing January 14th, 2015. He was a second-year law student, same school. He was partying with friends, and he went out for his friend's 21st birthday. He was only 19. They had spaghetti that night at a restaurant, and they were drinking at a place called the Love Shack. Well, that night they split up, and CCTV shows Couthard by the river bridge over a walkway in Ware, over the river. On the 15th, he's reported missing. There's a 9-day intensive river search. But there's always an intensive river search. And then they give up. On the 23rd, a diver who heard about the parents really asking for help because the police were giving up, donated his time, drove 150 miles. Professional diver, went in the water, and almost immediately found the body. It was near the Framing Gate Bridge. Coroner's inquest, they don't release the blood alcohol level, but they said that, again, he died of drowning, no signs of violence, unknown circumstances about how he got in the water. That is Mr. Couthard. All of these are very, very smart, healthy, athletically oriented young men who disappeared under unknown circumstances. All were drinking alcohol, all ended up in the water, deceased. None were found by search and rescue. All were found by secondary sources. Another unusual point. Now, in that book, Sobering Coincidence, that I wrote, this exact scenario with a college played out in Wisconsin at multiple universities earlier. And then it stopped. And now it's started up in the UK again. And this isn't the only location in the UK this has happened. There's something called the Manchester Pusher. That's what they call it. Nobody's ever seen this person. Nobody's ever seen a person go in the water that's directly related to this. A lot of times the water is so shallow you could stand up in the canals, but none of these people do. They drown. Very suspicious. It's happened dozens of times. What is happening to these people? I don't know. But I've written about it in over 6 countries. It's probably happening way more in a country that you live in, and I may not even know about it. So in general, 99% of the time it's male. They're healthy, they're young, and they've been drinking. Somehow or another they end up in water. Unknown circumstances how they got in. The coroners say that it's drowning that caused the death. Now in Wisconsin, some parents paid for secondary autopsies and they found super high levels of GHB in the system of their sons. The coroner's office never found this because it's not one of the 22 drugs that are screened for in these coroners' autopsies. When a coroner does an autopsy, it costs them a lot of money because to screen for drugs costs dollars and cents. So they have to put a cap on how many drugs they screen for. In these instances, there's 22 to 24. GHB is never one of them. But in these cases, in Wisconsin or in this Wisconsin area, GHB seemed to be a critical element that was being ignored. First question is, it was never known how these young men got from the bar to the water. There were never any tracks. There was never any scent trail from point to point. They just all of a sudden were there. But when a second autopsy was found, they found these super high levels of GHB. And I've done a deep dive into this. I address it in the book. Your body produces GHB at minute levels, very, very small. And the truth is that is there some way that something is found to activate this in the body so that your body produces inordinate amounts? Is there some way that they're getting this to people in inordinate amounts? But the first problem is getting it in the person's body and getting them under the influence or getting them to pass out. The second issue is how are they getting them to the water and nobody ever sees them go into the water? It's a very complex situation. I discuss it for chapters in the book, and it's not easily discounted. Now, there were some detectives that had this thing called the smiley face killer, and they wrote about it in New York. One of the detectives was a brilliant guy named Gannon. Personally, I've been to a lot of these places where these people disappeared. I've never found a smiley face at the cases I investigated. I'm not saying that they didn't find them, but I never found them. And they looked at it from a regional issue, from a very small amount of places. I looked at it on an international issue, and it's happening internationally. So, same exact scenario they described, but it's worldwide. So, no, it's not a small group of killers. I think I proved that's impossible because there's multiple cases in multiple countries days apart. So, that's my take on that. But that detective, Gannon, who worked missing persons for New York, a smart guy, and really broke those cases open in New York City that applied to these type of disappearances. Anyhow, I want to say that I appreciate your friendship. Please give me a thumbs up. If you like these videos, please post them on your social media. I think we all know that thousands of you have been unsubscribed from my channel over time. I don't understand how it's happening. And there's some manipulation going. It's pretty obvious. I've been looking for a new place to go. Not sure if it's going to be a cost-based scenario where you have to pay monthly to get to us, or it's going to be free. I'm not sure how it'll handle it. I really haven't found a place to go yet where I can go there and post my videos and still own them. It seems like every place wants to own your videos for free. So, need to find a place to post my videos and I can monetize it some way so it's not killing you and killing me. And I can at least get paid for doing this somehow because it does cost money. Anyhow, I appreciate it. I'll keep trying to bring you these gorgeous locations while the summer's good. And be safe. Carry a personal locator beacon when you're out hiking. Tell others where you're going. Don't hike alone. Check the weather before you go out. Watch my hiking video that I made earlier this spring. It talks about the safety aspects and what to carry in your backpack. Other than that, thanks a million and have a great week.